Greetings. Good morning, good evening, good day to whoever, wherever. Hopefully we are live here. Looks like we are. Let's check the tube as well. Hey, JW McC. There we go. And we're live on YouTube as well. Stu Dog, Richie, Lauren, good to see you all. All right, so I had planned to watch Coasty and Jesse for like 5 minutes, eat a bowl of cereal and get into the mood. But we're gonna just jump right into the mood. Hey, Dries, Matt. So let's see. Let's see what's going on today. We're gonna start with a quick overview. I'm gonna go to all 4 boards for a second. For me, this isn't going to look quite right for you, but at least you can see 3 of them. And I'm going to give a first impression. Blue Bomb Sindarov, equal rook endgame. I imagine the middle game, White's king was worse. I heard Jesse saying that he didn't like something Sindarov did. In the endgame, White's king is going to be slightly better than Black's king, and White's space on the king side is a nice little advantage. So let's say mild danger for Sindarov, but probably he's okay. Looking at Fabi versus Giri, anything could happen. I heard Jesse say it's just a draw, but, it's just a game would be my take. Prague versus Wei Yi. I actually like Wei Yi's position. Technically, Prague has the better bishop versus the worst bishop, right? You know that supposed advantage, disadvantage. So, normally this bishop on b3 is better than the bishop on d7. I don't know how well you can see this tiny board, but yeah. I can also click around like this board by board. So like in Prague's game, this bishop is supposed to be better than this bishop, and you've got extra space on the king side. Sometimes you can attack there. But I feel like actually the black queen is hitting some things, and they're going to fight over the d file. White's not going to be able to checkmate, so they're going to fight over the d file. Then black would be good. Wait, maybe that's too simplistic. I mean, there could be a scenario where he goes bishop c2, g6, queen h6, queen b2, knight e4. No. Could there? Okay, maybe it's still balanced. Maybe it's still balanced. Ooh, some moves coming in. And then we've got Naka versus Esipenko, which I think is the game I'm the least likely to watch of these 4 because it's technical. Well, Naka's got a nice position, actually. This is like a pretty much ideal position to show that the split pawns are a weakness. So it's unpleasant for Esipenko. So there's everything to play for in almost all these games. Blue Bomb goes for f5. Jesse was saying rook d8 would have been enough. These pawns are cramping Sindarov's king so that back rank mate remains a problem forever and ever and ever. Because, if you go g6, they play f6. If you go h6, they go g6. So he needs to somehow get this king out of here. And honestly, even on king f8, Blue Bomb might be intending f6. So this is unpleasant for Sindarov, actually. Okay. So, how Sindarov tried to convert this. Does that mean Sindarov had a good position? Let's see. Here it looks pretty good. I would say the white king looks pretty airy, but, this pawn's made some progress. It could go anyway. So some moves happen. Okay, well that looks like good news for Sindarov. b3, a4. Takes. Oh, but the queens are trading. Oh, no, you got to move your queen off here, right? Keep the queens on the board. This is going to be equal, basically. Okay, well, that makes sense. I don't know. It was a complicated game. It felt weird to trade queens for sure, yeah? Yeah. Felt weird to trade queens, but maybe there wasn't something where he wanted to waste time. Patrick says black is way better in this endgame. Wow, that's a surprise to me, Patrick. Why is black better? I mean, white could trade one pair of rooks off the board if they're worried about their king at all, but the king's not really in danger yet. And if you trade the rooks and black takes, then the king on a2 and black plays a move like rook d4. Like had white not played f5 here, right? If white did this, then black plays here. You can threaten back rank mate. And surely black just plays g6. And then, yeah, black's at least fine. You can go after the b pawn and sack a bunch of pawns for the b pawn and start trying to queen this. But the thing is, black gets a lot of your pawns. And then maybe they look to trade the rook for the b pawn. Actually, maybe something like king c4 is going to be more precise. But basically, I mean, white's not winning this. You know, too many things hanging. So I don't think that's like a real way for white to play for advantage. Only risk for white. I like this move f5 from Blue Bomb, now that I think about it. It makes a lot of sense. We had a very interesting rook endgame yesterday between Naka and Fabi. I've continued to dream about it. Very interesting rook ending. And maybe this one will be interesting too. At first it doesn't look quite as interesting, but there's some stuff going on. There's some stuff going on. For example, if Sindarov plays a move like rook e2 or rook g2 or rook f2 right here, attacking these pawns from behind. White could defend the pawn with rook h2, g1, f1, or e1, but then black has rook takes h2. So it will be a pawn sack, and then white will be looking to do something aggressive with rook d7. So it's a candidate for him to go after one of these pawns from behind, and I'm not sure what Blue Bomb will do in response. I honestly don't know who's better or worse, actually, after looking at this for 3 or 4 minutes now. Yeah, 100% the queen trade is... the worst thing about white's position is the king safety. So trading queens... So trading queens is bad for black in terms of giving up their best advantage. However, sometimes concretely, you just say, I don't have time for whatever other move it could be. Or you say, well, once I'm here, I can't even take this pawn back without trading queens anyway. So it sometimes it's just like a tempo thing. It's like you'd like to keep queens on the board, but you're unwilling to, give away this square in the middle of the board, or you're unwilling to give up a tempo or whatever it might be. Yeah, this queen on d4, look how good it is. I mean, how's black supposed to play around that piece? His knight's hanging, queen trade if the knight moves. It looks very hard to suggest a move other than a4. Here, definitely queen a5 or a6 could be a move. Maybe even queen b7. Looking at that pawn. Yeah, because black does have this move. No, they don't. This is the problem. Queen b2 checkmate, right? That's an idea for trying to break through, but white has back rank mate. So it's not clear. It's not clear how he would have made progress without a queen trade. Just that queen on d4 is so good. Here, had white taken with the bishop, I guess he would have played check, maybe? Here, check. And then if you save that bishop, rook d8 wins the game. And if you just go wandering off, then black's at least ahead of pawn if they now give the queen trade. I don't know. It feels like he did about what he could have. I don't know. I don't know for sure. Okay. Could have gone queen b7, Shashank, yes. But interesting thing about queen b7 is it doesn't threaten to take the pawn on a4 or on e4 or anything. It literally threatens nothing. So I don't know what the next move would be after queen b7. Human eval, I don't yet know Patzer class. Let me grab an eval bar, though. And turn off Jesse, turn on David. We'll call it game 1. And I'll start with equal for this game. Sometimes when you can't tell who's better, it's because it's equal. So let's see. There's a few people in YouTube giving us some insights into the position as well. So let me go read those comments real quick, folks. Let's see. How much danger of losing is there as white in this end game? It's probably like a 10 to 20% danger of losing for each player, something like that. If it's equal, I don't know. Patrick wants to go rook f2, like I was saying, maybe, yeah. But we can't play rook a2 for a while, Patrick, because we'd have to get rid of the back rank mate for the black king, and that is like not easily done. Sindarov's having one of his longer thinks of this tournament. W. Reynolds would think black might be better at first glance because this looks a little overextended, but then it's not that simple because these pawns cramp the white king. Yeah. If white keeps a pawn on the 6th rank, that would be a reason to like white. Yep. Howdy, Lorena. Checking both, Ilkson. Checking both. Okay. So, yeah. So it doesn't seem like there's a clear sense in chat either. The sort of group intelligence is not saying clearly that white or black is better. So we're going to put up a human eval here. I'm going to add it to the broadcast, so give me a second to fumble around. And the eval bar is going to be this. My Google something or other. No. Oh, shit. Can't find my window. There it is, finally. We're going to put it over here. All right, so that's one eval bar sorted. Let's put FIDE candidates over here. Thanks, Elkson. Yeah, I agree with you. Yep. The chess looks pretty interesting to me at this point, Lorena. Yeah. Chances that Caruana and Giri will see a winner. It looks like 50-50. Ish. Something like a 50% chance of somebody winning, 50% chance of a draw. I don't know, just throwing that out a little bit randomly here. Okay, so that gives us... Whoops, let's put this guy out of the way for now. That gives us a first sense of what's going on. Hikaru a bit better. No, I'm not. All right. Game 2, we'll call it I guess it's Fabi who's got white, so we'll call this eval bar Fabi. Let's put an eval bar on the Fabi game next. Sorry, Lorena. I was getting yelled at from far away. We will stop answering. All right, let's put an eval bar on this game here. Fabi versus Anish. I prefer black. It won't let me do minus 0.25. I don't have hundredths, it looks like. Okay. That is the Fabi game. Let's go Prague over here. Prague game, Queen F4, trying to come here. Rook H3. Wait, what about Rook F3? What's his plan there? Huh? Looks like Black's planning to trade the E pawn for the F pawn in case of Rook F3. Other candidate move, rook's double on the D file. There should be knight E5 defending the bishop and stopping Rook F3 and stuff. Okay, Reynolds correctly says there's a second candidate move here, G6. But it doesn't look awesome. I would say white's basically up a pawn here with those pawns like that, right? All they have to do is defend this one. Also, knight e4 looks like a major candidate move. Boop, boop. So I'm going to say that's very good to look for like every possible move like that, but that move doesn't help black here. So mainly we could expect something like this. And then white is a tiny bit better. So we're going to give Prague a little advantage here. And then Naka against Asipenko. He's got the nicest one. We're going to give Naka 0.4. No. Whoa, whoa, whoa. 0.5. We're going to be very Generous here on Naka. No, if we're going to be generous, that's not even generous. 0.6. Okay. So I've got evals for all games on the guys' side, and now in a chess dojo first, we're going to check out a game on the women's side. All right, Bold Cool. You or somebody better enjoy this. Wow. What the heck of a position. Vaishali's down in exchange, and like somehow black has a passed pawn behind all the white pieces. How that pawn could get behind white is unclear, right? No, I know how it did it immediately, but it does kind of look like either you like sort of snuck the pawn in behind the other person, or like maybe a white pawn just like turned coats at some point, and then you've got an enemy behind you. Surely black had an outpost on d3 and white sacked on d3, and that's why there's an exchange, right? So we can add an eval bar for these women here, and we'll call it Vaishali. My instinct would be to like the white position. Oh, black countersacks the exchange. All right, my instinct would be that it's equal. No, let's see. Okay, pawn takes. The bishop's still hanging. White's got the bishop pair. White's got this diagonal. The rook is trying to do... No, white's really good here. Oh, Divya, she's going to try and blockade those pawns. Yeah, what a hell of a mess. I mean, to break through, white needs to sack this exchange, right? Either on d3 or b7 or b6 or something. I believe white can do it. I'm going to leave it as white winning. But I'll say this. The person to sack the third exchange this game will win. How about we predict it that way? Why did she countersack? I think all her stuff was hanging. c5. If she goes like this, then this comes. If she goes here, then this comes anyway. What do you do about Vaishali's pawns other than sack and exchange? No, I don't know for sure, Bold Cool. I'm just trying to figure it out with you. But it looks like on almost any bishop retreat, white can go d6, right? Because wherever you go with your bishop, I know it looks like the knight's not sufficiently defended, but there's this d7 move that'll win. And how is black supposed to stop d7? Something like this. This should break it. It's going to be very hard to stop this pawn from going all the way. So basically, rook c6 is played to distract this d pawn from queening, I would say. Because this was the only really solid blockade on d6, and with a pawn on c5, it wasn't solid anymore. So distract the d pawn from queening, and then try and blockade these. Now, okay, I want to do something like bishop c3, rook b1, rook b6 or something, but let's look at a very basic move first. Queen d7. Oh my god, Vaishali just played it. All right, so this basic move says, are you going to straighten out these pawns? They'll still be pretty well blockaded, it looks like, except there's the move bishop e5 coming. Oh, this rook's out of the game with queens traded. It's just out of the game. I think my initial assessment that white would be winning was correct. And Divya has to, groan, keep queens on the board while defending this. Oh la la. Okay, and she's thinking that on bishop e5 takes here, that she will save herself with a little checkmate over there. Wow. That's why her queen probably went to b8 instead of, say, c8. If you go to c8, white just piles on like this, I think. Still looking to break through with these pawns. It looks gone for black. So she goes to b8. This bishop's tagged and it can't go to e5. I mean, unless white can do something like murderous like this. But This is a slightly impractical approach to the position, but I want to point out to you all that there's this theme of queen e8 checkmate, right? Okay. So David Khachatrian had noticed that and said, okay, we could do it with fe5, and then if queen e5 here. Okay. That looks more logical than the insane rook b1, which might also be winning, though. I mean, I don't know. Why wouldn't that move win? Why wouldn't that move win? I mean, I like to not look at variations that are too implausible and waste all your time on my crazy inventions, but oh man, Divya's got 2 minutes to make 14 moves. She's definitely cooked, my friends. I don't know if I'm using that word correctly, but she's super dead. It's basically, you know, Vaishali's choosing what sauce to put on her meal at this point. Does that make sense? The meal's already cooked, and she's just picking what to put on it. This rook b1 move is evil, right? I mean, make the queen go back somewhere like that, and then you just threaten to trade and go rook here. This rook's gone. It's over. It's an exciting position, Bold Cool, but yeah, the main problem is this rook on g6 has no way into the game. So black is lost because a rook is a lot, you know? Sometimes you have a slightly badly placed piece, right? Like a French bishop or something like that. And you don't necessarily lose just because you got one badly placed piece. But if you get a full rook that's essentially trapped, then yes, that will cause losses. So Vaishali's winning this game. Is there any other game you'd like me to look at over here, Bold Cool? Should we have a glance at the full glory that is round 9 on the women's side? Is Anna Muzichuk still in first place? 4.5 out of 8. That's not that big a score. Chu has 4.5 out of 8. Lano has 4.5 out of 8. Divya has 4.5 out of 8. Vaishali has 4.5. There are 5 people tied for first place right now? No. You can't. Oh yeah, Tan's doing badly enough to have 5 leaders and 3 trailers. Wow. That is wild. Okay, looking at these other games, Ju is up a pawn against Lano, but very good drawing chances for Lano with the long-range bishop. So let's say good chances of a draw for Lano. Goryachkina and Asaubayeva drew already, but they're not. Well, they're only half a point behind the leaders, so. How's Muzichuk doing? Look at her king. Wow. She's winning-ish? Almost? Trying to win? We'll open up one more game here. I don't want to get bogged down in watching 6 games at the same time. That's going to be too much. But just have a look here. Her point is that after this, she's just trying to checkmate the black king with her king. I haven't learned any words from my kids yet, Lorena. My kids are still learning words from me. They're still at that stage. But we might only be 1 or 2 years away from it. $11, 8, and 3. It must be possible to escape, right? I mean, this is not a traditional mating attack. Wait a minute. I got a better move for black. This might actually be mate. Look at this. Check, forcing the king here. Boom. Boom. I don't know about this year, Hattie Ho, and Alex, about the time controls, but I did hear that there was a previous candidates tournament for the women either 2 years or 4 years ago where they had a different time control than the men. And a bunch of people raised a stink saying it was sexist. Why do women have a different time control? Well, they didn't really ask why. You know when people say why is X, but they're not actually asking you to explain X. They're just saying like X is wrong. Does that make sense? Right? So they're like, why do the women, like, as there's no possible justification for the women to have a different time control than the men, blah, blah, blah. And the answer was that the players had voted on the time control they wanted. So it was one of the very, very rare moments in history where the players had actually been given any kind of like choice or control in their lives. So the outrage was wrong that year. I don't know about this year, so I'm not promising anything on that. But yeah, the packed house is cool, Lorena. It's also nice occasionally when they go to school and it gets quiet here for a moment. Very nice. Okay, so Muzachuk. Supposedly one win and all draws, someone says? No, she lost to Divya last round. That's what made the tournament all equal. I didn't see the results last round, so I thought that Muzachuk was in first place the whole time. Jake thinks that the same thing happened this year. The women voted for a different time control than the men voted for. So, okay. King f4, rook takes e7. That makes sense. The rook tries to get back into the game. Has to give a check to avoid a rook trade. Now, let's just be clear. Muzachuk is playing from a position of strength here. She could trade the rook and take the pawn, and she'd have a drawn opposite colored bishop ending up a pawn. Which is not that exciting. You could also actually try to play for a win this way, instead of being up a pawn, like have a strong passer. If the black king gets to e3, black's got very, very legit winning chances, but then white's going to play king f2 against either f5 or here. I would guess that if you could play f5, king e3, you would even win this opposite bishop ending with 0 extra pawns. But moot point, because you can't make 2 moves at a time, but it just gives us a sense of where she's at. And now she takes here. She's up a pawn. White's going to echo like that. Is there any way that she could win the pure bishop ending? Rook trade, king goes to h3, king comes to g1. There's just, no, I don't think you can win the pure bishop ending. So she's going to play something like, you know, rook back to b8 or back to b5. And if I make an evaluation for her, we'll call it Muzachuk, even though I've given it black's name on every other one. We'll say that she's at minus 0.9. Okay. So this is Muzachuk with basically no time, 30 seconds. Ideally to get more time next move, which is move 40. She's got, I would say, around a 50-50 chance here. And we're going to move back to some other games in a second, Dylan, yeah. I would say I would give Muzachuk about a 50% chance to win this endgame. 50% chance it's a draw. Okay? Now, let's go check out the leader on the other side of things, Sindarov. Did Kostya's app smoothly switch the eval bar for us there, by the way, folks? Did that eval bar go pretty smoothly from the opposite bishop ending to the rook endgame? I'm hoping for smooth. Then I can tell Kostya you did a good work. You did a good work, Kostya Kost. Tradovich. Rook a5. Surprise, surprise. Prusy would have expected rook f2. Yeah? But he goes rook a5, rook f1, yeah? g6. No f6. Oh, because f6, it would be rook takes g5, of course. Okay. So he Tradoviches, comes here, comes back to the second rank. He's not even trying to win, dog. Or is he? White king is trapped. What's this king doing? Looking at f6? He's got. I mean, black's technically better. We can change our 0 to like minus 0.2. You know, as far as symbolic victories, he gets a symbolic victory here. I'm going to eat a little bit of my mush here. Ugh, so nasty. Isn't it weird how quickly cereal gets worse? Like it goes from you know, a 10 down to a 1 in just 2 minutes or so. Ugh. So if you ever move the rook out and black takes on h4, then they're probably winning. But if you wait for black to play f6, trade a pawn, then you can come out, and black doesn't have enough to win, probably. But the king is trapped. Why isn't Sindarov looking to, like, walk the king around like this? That looks like a real legit winning attempt. Why exactly is black better here? More active rook. One factor is rarely enough to win rook ending. Rarely, right? You think black isn't better? Come on. So look, the rook is keeping white from improving their king. It's keeping white from improving the rook. So white can't do anything other than, like, you know, rook h2, rook h1, rook h2, rook h1. And black's king is free to try to come and double attack this pawn. f5, interesting. And look at this, like rook h2. f5. Well, white surely has to take en passant. Surely. I mean, you don't want to let this become a passer. Yeah, so Nikki, this is an interesting question. Let's assume the black king did my first instinct. I'm not saying there's like a high chance my first instinct is right? But let's just say it does this. White always has this move here. Now, from this position, there's two options for black, right? One is you go king g4, rook f7 takes. This rook can't save this pawn. So now what is white doing in this position? King g5, and black's trying to win with the g pawn. That doesn't look good for white, does it? Second of which, you have to calculate this carefully. I think this works out for white, but let's just check. Black gets a queen ending with the extra g pawn, potentially. Wait. Yeah, if you go this way, then black can just run the king to b8 and they win. So you have to keep the black king away from your b pawn. You have to shoulder the black king, but never step on a square where they're going to queen on you. Yeah. This ending is like pretty bad for white as well. So you see how this is not a perfect solution. There's a chance white's losing the king g4, king h4 rook ending. There's a chance white's losing the queen ending. Most people usually lose queen endings down a pawn, bold cool. I lost a queen ending down a pawn in a blitz game like 2 days ago. Queen and knight pawn against queen. That exact, this exact ending, I just lost it 2 days ago. Most people lose this. Even in classical, with an hour to think on their moves, they usually lose it. It's very hard to play. Okay, let's see what happens in the game. He doesn't go for my plan. He goes for his plan. We get an en passant, and the rook just abides. Now, where is he going with the king? Oh, maybe back around this way. That seems like the only game in town. Oh yeah, Blue Mom drawing all his games against Sindarov would be a fine result for him. But is he drawing this? Why doesn't Black simply win with this plan, folks? Hopefully I've explained enough that everybody understands that White's in danger, so now it's a question of how much danger. Also, why didn't White try this? Oh, okay. Because of this move. Okay. Move 41. Maybe White can play h5 at the right moment. Let's see. So we go here, here. No, we'll try this now. Here, here, check, here. And now Rook G1, King H6. Here, this is the only shot. Rook H5. That looks like perhaps a drawing idea. Niniak found the same line. Yeah, this seems to be a saving line here, right? I'm just leaving it up for a moment for everyone to take it in, be on the same page. This is like what White's hoping for, I think. I think that if White doesn't go for something, if they just keep going like Rook H2, King H6, Rook H1, King H5, I think we're talking about just a winning plan for Black. Okay? That looks like a basic winning scenario. And this looks like the tricky drawing plan for White. So that makes us ask the question, maybe Sindarov can avoid the G7 square. Maybe he's got a winning plan where he goes king here, king here, king here, king here. King here, right? So let us try that next. There's also going to be some plan where you come forward with your king, but then normally Rook G1, oh, and then you would drop back to H5. Here, let me just like introduce one other idea, folks. Now you drop back to the square you were always trying to get to. So there's still two plans for Sindarov here other than King G7. Does this allow H5? Let's just check. Yeah. King F5, King F5, King F5, H5. That looks fine for White. Well, Patrick, sounds like your judgment is better than a broken clock. That's already something. All right, so now let's try King F7. Now again, let's try H5. G5, H6. Rook H4, dead. Is that right, folks? Actually, I shouldn't do it that fast. We should be more certain before we say dead. Rook G1, King G6. Also, we haven't proved for sure that Black wins this rook ending. Let's say White, just plays like, Rook E1 and Black takes this pawn. We haven't proven that Black wins this rook ending. But I'm just going to assume there's like a 90% chance Black's winning that rook ending. So for now, We're going to work on the assumption that black wants to get that rook ending and white wants to avoid losing the h-pawn for nothing, okay? Right, so rook g1 in this position, king g6, defending that pawn, and then we'll still clean this up, I think. Yeah, I mean, if you get this position, you don't resign as white. You keep trying to defend, but I suspect it would be lost. So I suspect that they're calculating whether or not they can get there. So that was rook h1, king f7. h5 doesn't yet work, I don't think. So that means white would have to wait another move. Now let's go king g8. This is a good opportunity to go here, here, and then maybe attack this pawn while the king's far away from it. That forces g4, doesn't it? Now we get back behind our pawny pawn. Get this pawn to h6. Oh! Just barely. Black wins. That's crazy. Black wins this one. You have to know the king and pawn ending, folks, but I'll just tell you, trading on g2, black gets the opposition. They wander over here. Eventually, black flanks, gets into b3, takes the pawn, and with your king on the 6th rank, you're always winning the single pawn. So this is winning. Dang, that king got there fast enough down the h-file. So we won for black there, for sure. This was all forced. If we don't do this, the king can come up and get too close, right? Well, okay, what if we just keep waiting? At some point, black can do the same thing. Yeah, and win. Probably. I'm not 100% guaranteeing anything I say, right? None of this is computer checked. It's just very, very quick calculations by me. Rook h1, king f7 played, rook h2 waiting. Okay, so here I think king g8, king h7. How does white try to hold? At the moment, I see no way to hold, Sam. So I'm going to say white's cooked. I'm probably going to be wrong about that. My instincts are that I'm missing something. And folks, we can see that Blue Bomb's playing his moves in a couple seconds, and Cinderov's thinking a long time. So the clocks tell us that actually it's a draw, and we've just missed something. But maybe Cinderov's figuring out the tricky stuff, and Blue Bomb knows he's dead, so he's just moving quickly. Who knows? There could be any reason. Awful. Oh. Oh. I'm going to check on Fabi for 1 second. And then I'll be right back. Fabi's still just a little bit worse. I stand by what I said about this position. 0.3 advantage for a niche. Easy. He's got the A file. His queen is slick. There's a doubled pawn. It's very nice for a niche. Maybe I'll even go minus 0.4 now. I'll just nudge it down a tiny bit more. Then we'll go back to Blue Baum. Hey, Cartier! If Cinderov wins today, is it mathematically winning the candidates? No, they've got 5 more rounds, right? He would have to be ahead by 5 points to have mathematically won with 5 rounds to go. He's nowhere near 5 points ahead. It's just at this level, when someone's in good form, I mean, you're never going to see Sindarov score 0 out of 5, nor no matter how good a form someone else is in, you're almost never going to see someone go 5-0. But, I mean, Fabi or Giri, they could go 5-0. So, no, the mathematical winning is still a ways off. Still a ways off. Okay, what does Patrick say? I don't see how white holds the h-pawn long term. G4, like I said today, I'm not sure why I'm supposed to be mad about pushing G4. Yeah, there's one position, Patrick, where the pawn on G4 is a draw, which was, look, if we go King G7, this line here. H5 here, check. You got to block it. Rook attacks from here. G4, Rook H4. This is the one position which I think is a draw. Because the king can't get to G5 without H7 coming. If the rook moves, of course, you take this pawn. If the rook moves this way, the king comes out. If the pawn moves, you take here. This position is a draw. So this he had to avoid. King G8 played by Sindarov. Right? But we found a bunch of positions with the pawn on G4 which were winning. So let me show you. This is the plan he's currently using. This is the live position, King G8. Here, H5, G5, Rook G2, G4, Rook H2, King here. You have to keep the king from coming to H6, I think. I mean, well, I have another line where I didn't. And the rook switches to behind the pawn here. And the important thing is, with this pawn blockaded at H5, if you go here, there's this move. You get forced back, right? Actually, maybe there's some hope here. Because now the pawn needs to be blockaded again. But I feel like black's winning by now. So let me try and prove that. I go Rook D6 to stop that. And now I've got two plans. One plan is Rook here, Rook here. And the other plan is like to just play G3 next move. Your king is still cut at the moment, right? So white needs a waiting move. And Rook H2, G3 is tempo. But let's say white does this. G3. So now on like Rook H3 or something, I come here. Right? Rook G1, I come here, and now the rook's not behind that pawn anymore. It's just lost. So that's basically the idea. Let's see what's happened. He goes King G8, H5, G5 played. I mean, they're playing all the moves that I expected. I don't understand why Sindarov's not winning. If he's not winning, like, I don't know what I'm missing. Like, basically, I could put this bar to infinite, you know? It's just... It doesn't matter if I put -4, -10, right? Like, the point is, I don't see any reason that black's not mathematically winning at this point. He's played another move. Hang on, let me just try and see what it is. Oops. Ugh, my thing's like spinning out. I had King H7 in this position, didn't I? I sure did. But he's played Rook H4 very quickly. Rook G2, G4. King's coming. What about King C4 now? He'll play check and Rook G4? Oh, Sindarov, that is nasty. But why are you not doing it my way? Your way is really risky. Rook H4 could spoil it, Patrick. I agree. You played it so fast. Makes me nervous. Okay, if the king comes this way, even then, it's like, why did we let the white king get so good? Why let the white king out of that box? What? Okay, if the king goes this way, he can play check, defending the pawn. Now his rook's back. Ugh, but the king gets here in time. That's a draw as well. What? Why? Wait, here there would be this move again. Right? So, did he do something wrong somehow? King G8, H5, G5, Rook G2. Oh, because we played Rook G2 for white. We didn't play H6 here. King H7, Rook here. Oh. I'd missed something. Yeah, sorry. I'd missed something. I hadn't looked at this move order that Blue Bomb played with H6 here. For some reason, I'd been looking at only Rook G2 in this position. So now, Rook H4, Rook G2, G4, King here. King comes this way. Yeah, it's the more logical direction for the king to go. It looks like a draw now. Boop. Apologies. That Rook H6, Rook H5. Okay. Well seen, Matthias. So now, okay, there's like two things black could do: Rook H3, or King H5. For argument's sake, on King H5, let's say white just waits. What's going on there? Nothing black can do with the rook trapped here. Let's just say it's dead, basically. Yeah, what's the phrase? I'm not a GM today, folks. Woo! All right, got that one wrong. Let's go get another game wrong as well. All right, draw for Matthias. Blue Baum holds a slightly tricky one there against Sindarov. Tricky enough for the naked eye to get it wrong. This game is very interesting as well, but let me just click through games I haven't seen in a while. Vaishali, did I get this right? Did Vaishali win the game? Bishop E5 played, takes. Rook B1! Is Vaishali a GM? No, she's 2470. Okay, I'm an IM today. And confirming what many suspected. I'm an IM today. H5. That's a sad move. Oh, God, Rook B8. Oh, Rook B6. I told you the person who sacked the third exchange would win, didn't I? That I said as well. I said you just want to get the rook to the B file and then sack an exchange to get these pawns through. Predicted it from the first position we saw in this game. Yeah? Okay. Okay, so that's one game done and dusted. That should put Vaishali in first place right now in the tournament. Things really go up and down, don't they? Yesterday, Divya beat Muzichuk to join the lead. And today, she got absolutely squished by Vaishali. Hopeless crushing. How's Muzichuk doing over in this bishop ending? Took the rook trade. Surprise, surprise. Prusy didn't see that coming. Why is that white king over there? Ooh la la. That looks winning for black, doesn't it? She wants to play king g4 without allowing king e2. Now bishop d8, king g3. Would be queening. And otherwise she'll take here and then add the g-pawn. Whoo! Muzichuk. Doing it. Doing it, I think. Exactly, W. Reynolds. That's the key drawing position for white. All right, Sam also thinks black's winning here. You want me to check on Ju? Ju is playing Lawn, no. Rook e7 threatens this. King here, knight here anyway. My instinct, Sam, is that this is a draw. You know, maybe white saw some kind of chances, but my instinct is it's a draw. All right. I wanted to check on Naka for a second. Naka Asipenko. Queen e5, queen c7. Yeah, you want to keep queens on the board. No progress yet, so we'll leave the eval where we had it before. Queen f4, rook f3, as expected. Okay, I thought about this rook d1 move. I wasn't sure about it, though. Get rid of your own back rank. Good idea, although be aware. Oh la la. Very pleasant position for Prague. We're going to increase Prague's advantage over on this board here. That bishop on c8 is so bad. The white pieces are all coordinated. I'm going to give him like the big old +1 already, which says, you know, it's getting very, very critical for Wei Yi. Very critical. In fact, if I had to guess, I would guess that white's going to win this game somehow. If I just made like a very vague guess here. Like, here's one tiny variation. Queen here, boom. You don't even get the queen trade. You know? No. This one's not working out for black very well. Sweet Blues, you said Sindarov was upset as he made this draw here? Yeah. That was not a great one for him. Rook e7. Wait, it was white's move here, not black's move? Hey, Sam, I'm sorry. Your favorite's winning. I assumed it was black's move and that, like, you know, black would play something not allowing knight e6. But here, look, the rook was on this square of king g6. There was bingo. It's the last move of time control. Black played rook b4, and white gets this in. Okay. So it looks like Ju will join Vaishali in the lead, and Lano will languish in, you know, second-ish place with Divya, etc. after today's game. All right, we're trying to get to you in a moment, Fabi. We've evaluated Prague's game, so we can go to Fabi. Okay, Average Joe says Fabi's getting cooked. Sindarov could have won. No, I'm not sure. Diffuse. It was an endgame where Sindarov was better. We just don't know, you know, exactly by how much. We didn't find the clear win. But this position, I mean, this is like reminiscent of a game that. Here's why I've always favored Anish in this position. This is reminiscent of a game that Gukesh won in the last Candidates. Who was it against? I want to say maybe against Vidit. He had a game that he won in like a double king pawn off of like the rooks coming down on the A file. It was one of his very best games in that tournament. Fabi could definitely get taken out of contention here if Giri wins this game. I would say, then what's Fabi's gap going to be from Sindarov? Well, only 2.5 points. Okay, but it's not going well for Fabi. That's true. I mean, if Syndarov's like mad that he's not running up the score and he's in no danger of losing, and he's playing black, I mean, Syndarov's still looking pretty strong, right? He's not looking like somebody who's about to lose 3 or 4 games in the next 5 games. I know Jesse said he'd lose at least 2 games, but Syndarov's not looking like somebody who's about to lose many games. Yeah? Does Carr want to tilt? I'm not personally aware of that pattern, Bold Cool. I mean, I think he has bad games rarely enough that I'm not thinking of like a dozen data points from which to extrapolate a pattern, right? Yeah, I don't remember exactly examples of Fabi tilting myself, but I mean, you could be right. I imagine it's a pretty small sample set. But I suppose they could tilt off of smaller things if you looked more carefully, right? Like these players, they might be upset at themselves for missing some move, even if they don't lose the game, right? Or upset at themselves for not pushing hard enough in some end game, or misevaluate. I mean, it could be off of very, very tiny things. Anut thinks that Syndarov is playing safe the last 3 rounds. At first blush, the opening of this game with Matias did not look that safe to me. I mean, this is a big sharp variation he's playing here. Unbalanced position, down a pawn as black, wins it back. I think he's just trusting in good moves. I don't think he's playing especially safe. He's playing actively. No, he's just playing well. I don't see anything particularly different about his play in this game myself. For me, it looks like he's playing well. All right, let's catch up on the Anish game. The FIDE game also had a beautiful finish, Hadi, yeah. But the theme was this owning of the A file, right? And then the finish was just icing. We got a rook trade. White brings the knight over from the king side to officially grovel. When it does, this bishop is going to be able to target this pawn. I had seen that coming at this point. No, after one knight trade, I realized, oh, one day this bishop can come here. Ooh, interesting. Yeah, the B pawn's requiring some hand-holding here. Can black play rook b2? Anish must ask himself. Wait, also rook c2 is the other question one could ask oneself. What do y'all think? Is there any chance of a win like this? Or am I just crazy? Point is to put the bishop on e4, play f5, and sort of, I don't know, believe in the bishop. I guess the other big factor for black is if white can't trade this queen, she's really like dominating. Sorry, not like a knight, but she's really dominating the action in this position here. This game is not yet so clarified that there's no chance for Fabi in this game. I mean, it's not clear that he's worse. It's not clear that he's lost. I'd say it's clear he's worse. It's not clear that he's going to lose at all. Not at all clear. Yeah, the white rook looks pretty good after that exchange sack. let's look at my exchange stack for 1 second. So we could say from Anisha's side, counterplay. Oh shoot, queen attacking a7. So there's two general options for white, right? White could try to like grovel this queen out of the middle, but it's tough to do because like there's so many. Once she's this deep, like everything you do leads to her capturing something. You could try for counterplay with the rook, but rook a7 unfortunately is hanging, so it's like rook a4 maybe. Or we could play this pawn sack, which might look the best, but bishop e4 is a tempo and trying to win that pawn. Then you could come here. He's made a move. What has he done? Rook a1. Okay. Simple chess from Anish. He could maybe play c5 next. Maybe. Yep, c5. I had noticed this possibility before. I was just more interested in rook c2. Rook c2 looked very good to me. Honestly, is it just the beauty of the idea or something? I kind of believe in this. c5 might be the best resource for white. If I just sit around as white and try to hold things together like this, I mean, it looks awful. It looks awful to just sit here, right? We can't even try to, offer queen trades because we just drop more things. So what? Black's going to play f4 safely because they don't even need the bishop defended. Then queen g3. Then maybe bring down another pawn. This is on a light square, so a lot of queen trades are winning for black. Honestly, okay, let me just mark time for white with a move. What? Jesus, I'm almost stalemated, but okay. Let's say I do this for some reason. I almost Zugzwang. I almost don't even know what to move for white here, by the way. But let's say this. I just want to point out, black might even win with a move like this because of all these pawns being where the bishop can target them. Now, would I do that? I'd probably try and come checkmate the king. It's hard for me to believe that white is okay here, but I think c5 would be the big chance to try and draw. And even that, I mean, the most basic scenario would be here, 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 here. I mean, that's 3 pawns, including a pretty advanced pass pawn against the rook. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with it, but it doesn't really seem like this is a position that you ever save. Definitely black never loses. That much, is so clear I don't mention it, but does white ever draw this? That's what I'd like to know. Does white ever draw this? Hard to believe. Perfect pawn structure from black. Distant pass pawn. Really hard to believe. So, I almost feel like he just passed up one of his most golden chances to win this game. But Anish is very good at that kind of thing. If this is the right moment to transition to that, normally he would do it. So let's have a look at what he's done and how good an advantage does he have. So he defends the b pawn because white has a mechanism to go knight c2, queen d2 or something and force simplifications on b4. So he plays c5 at this moment where he says, hey, your knight's out of position. You can't yet do this and give me bishop e4. Your knight doesn't counterattack this pawn fast enough because bishop takes like that before you can play knight b4. Actually, I didn't calculate knight b4. Good lord. That might be a drawn queen ending for white. Maybe black plays g6 because b7's covered. And then while you're coming in, black goes check, gets in with their king, and then goes this way. And the king is going to hide here, and the queen's just attacking things from behind. I don't know for sure. But anyway, dc6, queen c6, I think... I mean, this knight b4 this is a critical line, but we don't have time to calculate it. My apologies. We're going to have to, just sort of catch up with things. Fabi didn't go for that. Plays king g3. He's rushing the king to the defense of this pawn. Anish is going to get the a file, and he doesn't have time to play knight c2 because it lets the queen get into too much stuff. So he goes queen b1, trying to keep her out. And now, I'm not sure what Anish is going to do, but I feel like he needs to play f5 while the knight's on a1. I don't think he can break through this space here. He goes h5. Interesting. Move 40 is made for Fabi. They had 1 minute each there. One more move to play. Bishop takes e4. Queen e4 is check, sweet blues. Yeah, good question, though. And maybe that's part of why the king was rushing to g3, was so that in this position here, if Anish plays king here, maybe he wanted king f3. Yeah. Okay. So h5 played king f3. 30 seconds for Anish to play his last move here. I feel like the move right now is queen to d7 or f7. And then whatever Fabi does, you play f5. What's the point of black's advantage here? The point of black's advantage is that white's got all these pawns on light squares that he can go after. Right? And that the knight's just actually going to be worse than the bishop in the locked position. The bishop's very strong. Strange move. He just plays h4 for now. I guess he's happy with his queen here. He knows there's no queen e1, queen a2, no surprises for now. But this knight... Oh, and if this knight tries to improve itself, maybe then he plays f5 in a position where it's all on this diagonal. Then just e4 with the next pawn. You see how white's position is like long-term cruddy, but that is one of Anish's biggest weaknesses, is to like just keep the position pleasant, but not like pick the moment to win. Just like feel very comfortable, know that you're better, but never quite win the game. Yeah, I think we can move it down a little bit here. We're going to go to -1 on this board here at the moment. It's not yet crispy. Just I feel like Anish is a little bit indecisive about killing these games. But, I mean, he was very decisive yesterday against Prague. So if I'm going to try to wrongly diagnose some kind of a weakness in a world-class player, let's mention that yesterday he was decisive. He committed to e6, e7 at the right time against Prague, and he did just finish him. The pawn on h4, I think, does potentially have the plan which Patrick is hinting at here, that you could at some point like play queen f7, like saying you're going to play f5, and then depending on how white defends it, you go bishop h5 check, king f2, queen g6, and you bring your queen to g3. And then with the queen on g3, I don't know, you have some different angle to pressure those pawns. Maybe your bishop goes back to g6 to attack e4 again. So, I mean, he's got a very pleasant position, but will he be able to push Fabi over the edge? I'm not guaranteeing in any way yet. Why can't white play king g4? Good question. Very good question. That's a weird position. I am curious as well, Survival. Well, let's say this much. This move does not win the pawn against this simple move, queen e7. I'll say that much. King g4, bishop h5, sacking your bishop too? So now if you ever play king h4, at least black has f5 and fe. Is that good for black? I don't know. Maybe not that good. But we also get queen g5 here, right? Then king here. Honestly, I like f4 better than fe4, blocking our bishop. Let's try this. This is good for black, right? I mean, I don't know if it's winning, but that knight is... Yeah, okay, I do know it's winning. It's winning. The knight is just too bad here. The knight needs to get off a1 at some point. You got to reroute that piece before you bring your king to h4, I'm going to say. I mean, it's fun and interesting to calculate this move, but no, we need to get this knight out of here. And I guess he's somewhat worried about getting these lined up, but it's better than leaving the knight on a1 forever. You cannot survive the game if the knight's on a1 10 moves from now. Does that make sense? Like, if you leave the knight on a1 for 10 moves, do we understand that eventually white's lost? There's a fairly simple winning idea, which I don't know what h4 is about, but here's like a simple winning scenario, just as an example. We play, I'm going to go back and forth for white for one move, right? We do this, right? And then we just get a position. Oh, Jesus. Now it's just tactics. Sorry. Well, anyway, f5 wins here. What should I do? I'll play here. Here. And show you this scenario. This is a super basic death scenario for white. So this is the reason the knight, like, you just know you can't leave the knight on a1. Does that make sense? Like, once you know that this is a possible scenario, you cannot play the game with the knight on a1. Use something like, I don't know, king all the way over here to try and play knight c2, bishop e4. I don't even know how this piece is getting out yet, right? But this is funny. It looks like I blundered my pawn on h4. Oh! What did you enjoy more, a1 or h4? Okay, so... Okay, now Fabi just gets to stew in his miserable position. This is how Anish likes to do it. He likes to just be like, my position's good, there's nothing you can do, and then like let you sort of like self-destruct in pain. But yeah, it's a tough position for Fabi. I would assume you just gotta start moving the knight. And his concern there is going to be knight c2, f5, you know, like how does this work? You know, how does he untangle this? That's going to be the concern, right? If you play something like queen here, he's still on the A file. If you go here, then maybe switch to the F file, threatening discoveries. King's got to move. Bishop comes here. Knight E1. Queen G6. King F1. And you're still alive, right? So that's kind of the dream for for Fabi. Is he just has to hope that he's not quite lost there. Of course, it's unpleasant to have this situation, but he's just got to hope. E4, bishop G6. This was possible as well. You block the entanglement that way. We looked at this a little bit earlier, but then after this, there's still ways it gets bad, right? We could try knight here. Takes here. Check the king and pawn ending, shall we? Not sure that black wins this. It's very unpleasant trying to find the salvation in this kind of line. That looks like a draw to me. I don't know what I'm blundering. So this knight f5 move, that's a possibility. Maybe. And black's got other moves here. Check. King has to go here. G6. Knight here. Something like this is possible as well. So I'm not going to heavily analyze that. I'm just saying that's another possibility there. But basically, knight c2 f5, that looks like the critical line for me right now in this game. Fabi's been thinking for 10 minutes, hasn't yet moved. We've got like a mountain of variations there. Maybe we'll click around on some of the other boards real quick. Muzichuk's game was drawn. So we got this one wrong. I thought she was winning at this point. So basically this bishop goes here and then you can't break through anything? Wow. Opposite color bishop endings. Sorry about that. And then over here, knight e6, winning the game for Jew. As we figured out. Wins the c-pawn. The king can defend these pawns, and that's GG. So Lana wins. And so that gives us two new leaders, Vaishali and Jew. Holy moly. All right. Okay, let's go to Prague. Prague f4. They must have made time control, so we've got 10 moves to look at. Queen f5, knight d6 happened. Here. Oh god, it's so close to like Philidor's mate or something here. But queen e7, simple move. h6, yeah. Oh, groan. Okay, so if they've already played a few more moves, but if knight here... Oh, hey, Jason! That would be a rook sack, queen f4, king here, check. Queen check, king here, check, check. Here, check. Here, check, here, check. The bishop's so bad, I mean, you don't have to take it. But if queen f7, queen takes d6. If rook c7, queen f4. Queen c7 is the move. Trying to keep the bishop trapped and defend that pawn. b5 is going to be the only move. Plays it. He's got bishop a6 now as well, as if he wants. Wow, and they make time control. And Prague has not yet successfully pushed Wei Yi off the edge of the bridge, right? Bishop a6 is still technically alive. Dang. Frustrating for Prague. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, then he would play knight e4. And then he's got knight f6. So I guess that's the idea. He's got two threats here. Knight c8 and knight e4. Now, knight e4, it's not 100% clear that it wins, right? Because the queen can attack this piece. And I don't know. I don't know what that does. Yeah, I don't know that that's a real threat. Knight c8 is definitely a threat. So there's bishop a6 and maybe queen e2 or queen d3 as candidate moves. Queen d3 doesn't look helpful. Like the rook just comes here. Honestly, queen e2 doesn't really look helpful either. The rook's just better here, isn't it? Now it's just on a defended square. You got less juice. So now if you play here, white could try and get you like this, but then you go here and defend. Maybe white plays this evil move. b4. That finishes trapping the piece, and we just want to go here. Congrats to Steve. Jesse does still do grad shows weekly. That made me think I should go check that he's not asking me to get off stream for the grads show or something. Fabi is in grave danger to fuse. We don't know for sure if he's losing, but there's a good chance he's losing. Okay, other possible moves here for Wei Yi. He could go this right away, because now queen takes b4 if you play b4. Then knight e4, queen e2, or queen d4. As somebody pointed out, this is another defense, stopping knight f6. I think you should just play this one. I don't really see what's wrong with it. Staying alive, man. All right, enjoy your football, Survival. Gosh. Doesn't it feel like Prague should have won this bishop on c8 at some point that couldn't move, and he had it attacked with 3 pieces? Shouldn't that bishop have died? And if not, he should have just taken a pawn at least. Just moving the rook in circles. All right, we're going to check back over on Fabi's game because we've got an update there. After h4, he played king g4. Spent half his time on that. Queen e7, queen d3. So he doesn't take the pawn. And he gets the queen on the other side of the knight before going for knight c2. Now you would think this would be the move. King h6. But that's just a first thought. Just a first thought. King g4, really? Yeah. Is Giri winning? We still don't know. Okay, so here's my thought. King here. Knight c2, f5, right? That's what I want to do. Takes. Wait. This is better than queen g5. My initial plan was queen g5. And trust me, queen g5 is not bad for black. I promise you this position is not good for white after queen g5. But this move is, we've got to say, much nicer. Much nicer. Okay, so first instinct and our working theory, king h6. So white's got to do something about this f5 threat. Let's say he just tries to get a square here. Oof! Thud! Bishop e4 in the face. Oh, let's just be clear. You can't take this bishop. That's check. So the bishop is going to be very good on the e4 square, my friends. That's the thing to know about what's happening right here. This bishop is going to be very, very nice on this square. Ooh la la. But it's not mate yet. It's not mate yet. The knight is still hanging on this first row. Definitely a danger moment. Should we give up our beautiful bishop? Or what if we did something like that? What? Oh. It's not nice to mock that knight, but... But I could see Anish mocking that knight. I suspect that Anish is winning. I'm going to drop my eval just a little bit further to clarify that I do really think we're in the kill zone here. But, okay, what did I just do now? I took the pawn as a way to avoid mate. Got hit by that. Oh, that hurt. No, can't do that. Let's do this one. Oh. All right, here's also something miserable. Look, I played just straightforward f5. But what if I did this? Then there's counterplay. Would you call that counterplay? Yeah, that's counterplay. Okay, so if we don't want to allow counterplay, let me try this idea this way. Check here, and then back to the A file. It's very Anish to prefer to like win on the A file to checkmating. Very Anish. The point is that on knight c2, we've got this. All right, knight d4, I'd seen it coming and misunderstood that this would be so good. But sadly, even this might be an easy win for black. Well, not easy. No, that's not a killer. Queen a7. We've got to move, by the way. He's played f5 check. E takes F5, and then King H6? Oh my God, Anish! That was beautiful! And they say that you don't kill them when the time comes to kill them. What a beauty, too, folks. What a beauty. The point is this. Pawn takes bishop, E4, I think. Tempo on the queen. Wherever she moves is just like a weird little mate with the pawns. Come on, that's really nice, Anish. That is really nice. Check takes King H6. Oh my God, it's just gorgeous. Honestly, it's just gorgeous. And look, the king's trapped by these pawns. Let's say he tries to escape. King F3. What does Anish have planned here? What did he have planned here? We didn't... Fabi resigned. He was just like, you've murdered me. But he should have played one or two more moves, honestly. He should have played one or two more moves for the fans, this being a spectator sport. He was planning E4 again. What? Queen takes. Check from this angle. King defends the lady. Boom again! The queen takes away the flight square. I mean, that is really damn nice. Really damn nice. I was the one fishing over on the A file, like, oh, I don't know. Anish likes to, make it like, positional. He likes to win with no hope, just trap a piece or whatever, no calculation. And while I was doing that, he was doing this. Oh, King H6. Oh, ooh. That is so fine. That is so fine. That's like the prettiest move I've seen in maybe in 2026. F5 King H6. Very, very beautiful. I'm just saying art, aesthetics. Like the double E4s in this position, cutting off the flight square. The finishing move with the king and basically a mating net of pawns. And then also the secondary line where it's also King F3, a second E4, and then you can't actually push the king off defending the queen, but you use these pieces to stuff the flight squares. No, it's very, very nice. Very nice. A study composer or problem composer would be very, very proud or happy to compose this thing on purpose. And you're not looking for that all the time in your games. Wow. That is really nice. That is really nice, Anish. I love it. Anish lost a beautiful game by Prague in the first round. But he's playing nicely. He's playing very nicely, Anish. Now he's won 3 games, including just back-to-back beautiful games last round and this round. He just played 2 games at the top chess level that exists in the world for humans. And he does have white in the final round 14 against Sindarov, I think, doesn't he? The very, very final round, he's got white against Sindarov, round 14. So I imagine that will be a very interesting game still, up ahead, right? But his game yesterday and today, whew, top form. Can't, nobody can play chess better than that. Let me just put some info here and then we'll go look at some other game. So we'll say Giri wins 2 in a row. Trails Sindarov by 1.5. Fabi dying. Fabi slipping. All right. People take the chess stuff too serious, all the like metaphors about, you know, death and all that. I mean, you're not really dying. You're just, you know, feeling bad because you lost a game. It's okay. Or 2 games. All right, let's check out Hikaru's work. I do not have any message yet from Jesse, so I don't know when he'll be taking over for me. You guys are sure it's round 13? Aren't there 14 rounds in this tournament? Isn't it just the opposite pairings from the first 7? And he played Sindarov in round 7 with black, so he should play Sindarov in round 14 with white. Hikaru game, queen trade. Should be a draw, but let's see. Okay, so what did he do? He came here. If rook a8, was he going to have this move? Yeah. Classic. This is check. Classic example of how with heavy pieces, how heavy pieces are perfect for ganging up on these kind of split pawns, right? So queen b6, he gives the pawn. Goes here. Okay, so yeah, so he's eyeing f2. And if here you played a move like king g1 or king g2 to defend f2, then black could go back to this, I think. So he takes 1, c4. You would want to play b4, but you can't because of f2. You don't want to trade these pawns, right? Okay, so he defends f2. He's got to. Queen here. Now, what's preventing b4? Right here. That must be asked. I would guess rook d8. That's that counterplay. If you go rook c5, there's rook d1 and mate. Giri has blue bomb in last round. That's weird, Driesmott. How did I get things that wrong? What's so weird about the pairings? Okay, round 7, he did have Sindarov the previous time. And now the order is flipped. He played blue bomb in round 6 and Sindarov in round 7. Everything else is the same, but it's showing Sindarov in 13 and blue bomb in 14. Does anyone know why that is? Why that one pairing is not symmetrical? Like, let me look at Fabi for a second. He played Prague in round 7, and he plays Prague in round 13 and Esipenko in round 14. So for some reason in round 14, they're all playing the round 13 pairings. And in round 13, they're all playing the normal round 14 pairings. That's definitely notable. You can't stop this thing because, you know, if you come back, this pawn just starts going. And rook c5. Wait, no, hang on. Queen f3 is clear. Yeah. So Naka brings the rook back into the game. We get a Tradovich. Doop, doop, doop. Whoa, f4. There is a winning plan here. You bring your king over here and you start moving the pawn. Yeah, his rook is fine here, covering both sides of the board. This ending's 50-50 to me. I don't know immediately the result. I'm going to go 0.7 still. I'm guessing with like the very best play, it's a draw, but it's pretty close. Yeah, but all those double colors, I mean, they could have just done the pairings differently to have less double colors if they wanted to, but those double colors were in round 6 and 7. Oh, maybe they're changing which players have double colors. They're trying to balance how many double colors different players have, maybe? That's a pretty weird side case to change pairings off of that. Okay, so Naka plays f4, which allows the rook to defend both sides and slows g5, but frankly, black still just wants to play g5 and trade as many pawns as possible. It's a very odd move, but he played that rook ending so well yesterday against Fabi. Man, I wish I were good enough to even get into this decision. I don't... I think even if I think about this for an hour, I might not be able to tell any of you why he played f4. You might need to go to a different broadcast with Grandmaster commentators. I'm truly, sincerely apologetic to say that. The risk is if you go to another broadcast, you'll see what the current evaluation is, which might ruin some of your suspense and enjoyment. But I think this move's actually above my pay grade. All that work on endgames, and I still just can't begin to fathom it. Okay. Let's say black tried to activate the rook in some other direction. Oh, I was going to say rook behind would always be winning for white, but black has check and they get there first. Okay, so if black went here, I guess we would just have to bring the king and say, yeah, you're kind of getting there, but you're spending time. Oh, the check against this. Oof. Yeah, that seems like a fine defensive move for black. Now, that said, I'm not sure why, why f6 instead of rook c6 or king g7 or something here. Hey, yellow. Yeah, it's lots of exceptional chess being played. We also still have the Prague game live over here. Could probably throw in a move or two. Bishop a6, so I called that one right. Wei Yi spent 18 of his 30 minutes on this move. And that's where we're at. Yeah, I could have told you that move 18 minutes ago. Oh, wait, I did. Okay, so it's going to be something like, rook f3, b4. Making room for this bishop to get its life together. Knight e4 didn't seem to lead anywhere as far as I could see. Another candidate move for white is queen c6. And then I would think black would have to try queen e2. Right? Poke the rook. And then if and when the rook moves, b4. Defending it like that. So I don't know. Maybe we should expect something like, rook f3, b4, queen a7, bishop d3, queen d4 looks winning. There's queen d6 as long as we haven't played queen e2. White can never take the a pawn. Yeah, so just b4. Very nice. Knight e4. Queen d4. Yeah, I don't see anything clear for Prague yet on that game. I just don't. Let's go to the rook ending that I also don't understand. Interesting, Foos. Interesting. Queen e2, then rook a1 wins. Oh, I didn't see that direction. Thank you. to Milton. Sorry, real quick, folks, back to the Prague game. Just an angle I didn't see, and I'm probably not the only person who didn't see this. The rook has this angle on that bishop. So, if we played queen c6, queen e2, you could play rook a1. And now b4 doesn't save the bishop because it's double attacked. There, the only thing black can do is go back to threatening this perpetual. Check like this. But the rook's still covering the first rank, so presumably white could take, check, and just drop back. And eventually the knight will win this position, almost for sure. So queen c6, with that rook a1 idea, I don't know if black has any move after queen c6. Rook d8 would be a candidate move if we're just like scrambling around for possible moves. Knight f7 attacking the rook. Rook here. Knight e5, bishop b7 was my point. Queen takes rook, mate. So this is like a funky tactical position. Still funky. What else could I do here? I could try knight e4, but I've got enough things, hanging in the middle here that I don't know that I can win this. Dang, chess is hard. Isn't it? Queen c6, rook d8 is still not clear either. This is a hell of a position to calculate. And presumably Prague has missed some winning computer moves in the 10 moves before time control that both players were blitzing. And in another 1 or 2 moves, they're going to be blitzing again. You can see that, right, folks? It's like it's coming in a second. I mean, Wei Yi just spent 18 minutes on his last move. He's going to spend less than 18 minutes on the rest of the game, yeah? Queen c6 tried after 11 minutes. So half of Prague's time there. And rook d8 instantly, 0.1 seconds. Yeah, you saw this coming. Wow. So I'm basically giving, it's obvious that Prague and Nock have the advantage, and I'm giving them each like a 50%-ish chance to be able to win or convert that advantage. King f7. Basically, you want to go g5, trade some pawns, king here, take. White's king is lagging behind. It's got to get here. But I think maybe part of the reason for this was that weird line with the rook check. No, I don't think that was it. I feel really out of my depths on these games. One is an endgame with technique just beyond my experience. And the other is a middle game with concrete variations that I'm unable to calculate. Which should I stick with? I should just stick with one since it's all beyond me. Until I figure it out. Let's go with tactics. Let's just practice calculating. Let's see if any of us can find a clear variation here for Prague. So knight f7 and knight e4 are the big candidate moves. Black's threatening to take the knight. So there's not like a ton of other things that we would want to do other than move the knight. In general, no yellow. That much I can tell you is like black wants to trade pawns on the king side no matter what. So as soon as you can calculate a safe way to just make a pawn trade, you'll do it. Letting the white king get to the queen side just makes it harder for you to trade those pawns and potentially get your king back to the queen side if you need to. Okay, so knight e4, queen e2, rook a1, I'm going to even try doing this without moving pieces, huh, folks? That'd be insane. Knight f7's been played. Rook d7. I saw that coming. Uh-oh. Now what do you want, Pragi? Pragovic. The problem here... Wait a minute. Is there queen e4, queen a8 to win right here, folks? The problem is knight e5, bishop b7, you just lose, basically. But what about queen e4? With the idea of king... No, king here, then your knight's hanging on queen a8. He just takes it, yeah. Knight e5, bishop b7, queen g6... Rook d8 to stop back rank mate. Queen e6 check, winning a pawn, and then just keep playing. Okay. So, candidate moves here. There's queen e4, there's queen e6. If you take here, then the pawn on f4 is hanging. So that's the problem. You could take, and then take one of these pawns, queen b5 or queen e6, but black will have rook f4 at the end, presumably a drawn queen endgame. So it's either queen check or queen takes. Here are the big candidate moves. So my line with queen e4 check goes king here, knight e5. Bishop b7, queen g6, threatening back rank and the pawn. Rook e7 defends both. Knight g4, threatening knight h6, check, very hard to stop. King f8, f5. Oh no, knight g4, queen g2 mate. Careful. Okay, and the rook can't get active there easily. Okay, so that looks okay. So maybe white needs to try and take the pawn immediately. What's black planning then? Bishop b7 probably. Yeah, queen e6, bishop b7, and you can't stop the mate comfortably. If you use your queen, you lose the knight. If you use your rook, you lose the pawn and then the knight. Knight h6 is an interesting idea from Terminoil. In your line, Jotane, oh, you said no, oops, okay. So I won't tell you anything more, you've already seen it. Yeah, can we desperado the knight and then take the bishop? So some version of knight h6, basically, right? So queen e4 to do all this operation with check. 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 And now you wouldn't expect rook f4 to save black because the king's open. And if the king's open, black's going to lose this endgame eventually right here. So this is the first clearly good idea we've seen in a while. Queen check, king back, knight check. This looks pretty forcing. I mean, how many moves does the king have? There's g6, which we can get to, but I think it loses. There's king here and there's g6. We'll get back to g6 next. Check. Now, if the king doesn't take the knight, then queen takes. Bishop b7, check, here, check, etc. Whatever you want. Takes, check. I suppose the king could go somewhere random instead of rook f7, but then... Yeah, then... I mean, black doesn't have like a winning threat here. Nothing better than maybe taking a pawn. And basically the black king position is a decisive factor in this kind of position. And honestly, like f5 is probably going to be better than taking a pawn, but this is the factor. Well, that allows queen e5. Maybe just take the pawn. Who knows? Anyway, white's going to be winning here. Maybe a centralizing move, taking away e5, rook here, and then this. We don't need to know exactly. That's like very, very low hopes for black. So there's some other square to go. Here, take a threat over there, and just we go to the long diagonal. And white should eventually win. So it looks like queen e4. Black might need to try this g6 move. And then on knight e5, black can dig in with this. White needs to improve this rook. But can't. Bishop b7's coming next move. Huh. Not so simple, Mr. Pimple. And if the rook activates, then, you know, this pawn will be hanging. Wow. So that's not clear, just g6. He's played a move. Queen e4 check. G6. F5. Holy cannoli. That's a hell of a solution. Okay, so if pawn takes, he wants to go here. Threatening mate? King here. Knight e5. And you can't defend g6. Queen takes rook as checks. There's no time for mate. Rook d6. You just push the king off of defending this, and then clean up. If there isn't something even better, like a checkmate somehow. And g takes f. He comes here, and now his queen has access to that. No, the queen's on it. So the game just keeps going. But he's got this now, at least. You can make some threats with this. The game's still going. Rook f2. Oh, everybody connected, and the black king is open. Oh, wow. Hard move to find, f5. Had I considered the move? Yes. It had briefly crossed my candidate list. Had I gone very deep with it yet? No, because I had expected that there would be something easier here. You know, something just like keeping it all together. But knight e5, rook g7, it's passive. But strangely, you know, knight g4 going for this, here, check here. And, I mean, this is like horrible over here, but I still did not see how white manages this situation here. So, necessity. This is where, like, a very important thing is you have to know how long to tunnel versus how much to search for fresh ideas, right? Like, and you also have to know when to just play an okay move and assume that you don't have a forced win and save time for another move, right? Prague had to look at, like, basic moves here, decide whether or not they worked. Honestly, he did it the move before, by the way. He did it while thinking about whether or not to go queen e4, where he was looking at king g8 and g6, right? But at this point, he had to look like, do I have a forced win? He had to, like, examine a couple ideas. Each idea, he needs to know how much time to allocate to that idea, when to give up on that idea, when to look for more ideas, or when to, like, keep pushing with the idea. This is great. And f5, maybe he's got a different algorithm than me, but I feel most players look at, like, simple moves like knight e5 before f5 or queen e6, right? Queen e6 was close too, wasn't it? Was queen e6 interesting as well? Queen e6. What did I have? I must have looked at it. Queen e4 check. G6. No, I didn't look at it yet. But presumably it's this thing, right? Okay, so you have to know how long to look at different things. And then he goes for f5. EF5's been played. So this is next? Oh, queen d4. Queen e8 played. Okay, so queen d4 looks very logical. Then rook d1 would be self-destructive because of queen f4 check. Knight e5 is like the big obvious candidate move. Knight e5, threatening queen g6, and then rook g7 is the only defensive move. By analogy from before, we know that knight e5, rook d6 loses to queen f7. But knight e5, rook g7 has been tough to crack. Oh la 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 la. Two minutes for Prague. Oh, he's committed now. He sacked that pawn. He's got to have a win, or he's going to lose even, right? He'll lose if he doesn't find a win. Rook a1 threatens basically nothing because rook a6, queen f4 will still be mate. So rook a1's not a candidate. He's done something. Rook f3. So, I don't even know what he thinks he's threatening, man. The most obvious move for black would be bishop b7. And then is he going to play rook d3? Queen f4 check? King g1, queen c1? I mean, white's scrambling for a perpetual there. Rook g3 is a good idea, say Jason and Patrick. Rook g3 would kind of threaten knight e5, maybe rook g6 in some cases. Okay, here's like a crazy idea. Oh, but I would need a move for black that just kind of marks time. That didn't mark time. Stopped rook d3. Yeah, Prophet, I was just thinking that maybe rook d3 could actually still be a move. There's a long variation. It's hard to give it without moving pieces, but basically black can check, here, check. You know, the king comes out, checks you a couple times. You bring the rook back to f3, get checked, go to g3. Black puts the queen back on d4, and then with your king on g3, you then replay rook d3. Oh, but then queen d3 would be checked by then. Maybe just rook f4 at that point would be enough to take the queen off of her stuff. But yeah, there's no move black could play here that allows rook d3 pretty much. There's like no plausible move they could make. Well, let's see. This is a plausible move. Let's have a look at it, shall we? Yeah. So let's go here, check, here. So again, there's a mate and one threatened, so black doesn't have time to take this. Check, here, check, here. If white goes back, you know, we're just looking at a perpetual, right? Which is a draw. That's fine for black. Yeah. It can't win for white, right? Rook d3, queen g3. Oh, and now we play rook back to g3? The idea from before? Threatening this and this? Could Prague have won with rook f4 instead of rook f3? No, this is check. Rook f3. Let's go rook f3. Bishop b7, like a very basic move. Rook d3, check. And now let's go rook g3 here. Threatening mate and the rook. That's it. White wins. Okay, so white's got a real threat here. This would be too... This move doesn't do enough to affect it. b4 does stop rook d3, so then presumably white goes rook g3. Is that the idea? What's the idea? Knight e5 maybe? Rook g7? Okay, let's try this. Rook g3. f4. This is very weird, but I won that bishop on b5, I think. Rook g6 is at least drawing. Yes, Patrick. There's no way rook g6 is worse than drawing. And perhaps there's something better. I think if you go queen d7 here and trade queens, this endgame's not going to be good for white, right? Black's king's in the middle, and why would we go into a knight versus bishop ending? We're trying to attack the king. Now, black should have some defense here. My instinct is black can draw this endgame somehow, where white's just trying to attack, basically, but not obvious instantly. So that's one possibility. That's against b4. I'm still leaving my eval at +1 on... But there's a risk that, you know, that Prague overdoes it and is losing at some point. The other idea here would have been to go knight e5, rook here, here. But this looks pretty solid, right? If black just defends stuff. No, then you go back to f7. Oh. Wait a minute. Just in general, knight e5. You trap the rook in here, and then you just come back and the rook can't get out of the way? Do you see that theme? Hikaru rook endgame. Probably drawish. Hard to say. This is a very cool theme. Big threat from white as well with rook f3. You go knight e5. And let's just use b4 to illustrate the theme again. Why not? You go knight e5, threatening this. They defend it, and now you go knight f7. And you just threaten the same checkmate, but the rook's trapped, right? Oh, you guys found her defense. Rook g8. Okay, good job. Good job. I was just testing you. No, good job. I had no idea. Okay, so that doesn't work at all. That doesn't do anything. Scratch that idea completely. No knight e5, back to f7. So then that means that we're back to rook g3 here as your move. That's white. And then I thought, oh, and then queen d6, knight f7 made more sense. Yeah, because then we got the tempo. Okay, we got to move. Rook c7. So that's just reducing the queen's responsibilities. And it also means knight e5 won't come with tempo on that guy. Okay. Now, moves for white. There's still rook d3. But now rook d3, queen check, rook g3, and the rook's not hanging to the queen, right? That's kind of the idea now. So it'll be here. Check is forced, right? There could also be queen somewhere defensive because there's no longer a rook hanging. Okay. Omoshiroi. Okay, so there's many possibilities here. 2 minutes against 3 in the blitz off. If rook d3, queen check, rook here. Now that mate's threatened. Queen, does the queen have to come back? What are the options here? This looks like this might not work for black, right? To move back and forth, even without that rook hanging. Now knight e5, and that's attacked 3 times. So rook, if he goes rook d3 right here, then we're probably looking at something like queen g7. And then, I don't know, knight e5, bishop b7, rook here. Something like this saves black. Okay, we got moves. Knight e5 played. That's what I was expecting, keeping the queen out of here instead of rook d3. I was just looking at rook d3 first. It's a little bit forcing. Queen here could be a move. Then white gets a tempo with that. Queen gets back to a good spot. Okay, here's an idea. Okay, we get rook g7 though. Oh, we got the knight f7, rook g8 pattern. Now the black queen can come in and defend stuff. And she does. Is this rook going to have to come to c7 now to support the knight? Black's threatening something like rook f8 at some point here. Knight h6 would be cute if black couldn't play queen takes queen. Yeah, but not going to happen. I feel like he needs to support the knight against rook f8. It's a first instinct. Say I played b4, rook f8. What do I do? Yeah, I cry, right? Could also go maybe queen a7, rook f8, queen takes bishop, rook takes f7, queen b5, maybe? A couple seconds on the clock for Pragi. Goes rook d3. Similar to what I expected. This one maybe he wants to put the rook here instead of here in some cases. But rook f8 should generally force him to go here. But then once he's here, he'll be threatening knight g5 check, so the rook might have to go back to g8. Unless the king can go here? Can black do this kind of an untangle here? That should be a draw. White can also give the draw directly themselves. Bishop c8 played instead. Wei Yi could be wanting more than a draw here. He could be thinking Prague is down to seconds. This is a big chance for me to maybe get a mistake out of him. So he prevents rook to d7, which is, you know, why I was expecting rook c3 to c7 last move from Prague. A safe square there. Now he's probably threatening rook f8 again because there's no rook d7. So rook c3 gets forced out. Now on king g8, there's again going to be this theme of knight h6, king h6, rook c8, queen e6, queen c8. And then at the end, black plays queen f4 with a draw if they want to draw. Honestly, they could try to play for more, but the queen ending should probably be equal. King g8 does get played. And I don't really see anything for Prague other than knight h6 going for a draw. So I'm going to switch my eval here to minus 0.2 already. Only thing I see for Prague is knight h6, rook c8. Black's threatening to take the knight. No, I guess you could you just play on with knight d6? Just trade queens and play the endgame down a pawn? Yes. Oh, also rook f7, there's queen e8 check. Black's not really threatening that. They're threatening queen here. Okay, they are threatening queen f7, though. So he just plays the endgame with knight d6. Now, after the rook recaptures, white's threatening something like b4, rook c7. So black wants to do something like f4 or b4 to give the bishop life. White's got a rook on the 7th, and black probably doesn't have time to save the a pawn. So white's not risking a ton here yet. Maybe it's still close to equal, but let's say black played f4 and white took here. And black... Yeah, okay, fine. I shouldn't even say minus 0.2. There's no way white's worse. I'll even give white 0.1 for having a rook on the 7th rank. Normally a rook on the 7th rank is worth a pawn, but I mean, white's got doubled pawns and a knight against the bishop on this open board. Like, there's not a scenario, not a lot of scenarios where white comes out noticeably ahead here. So we're at knight e7, at rook e7. This is the live position. So, yeah, the move b4 could make sense. Yeah, the move b4 makes maybe the most sense. What about a6? What happens then? Because if rook c7, the bishop can always get out. Maybe a6. Maybe keep all those pawns. Hello. So one scenario here, just one line to give you like a baseline sense of what we could be dealing with, would be something like takes, rook here, king here, rook takes, rook here, rook here, rook here, rook here. And this kind of an endgame is going to be a draw. That would be pretty straightforward equality. No moves yet. Rook e7 play. Let's check on Hikaru for a second. We're not going to get a lot of chances. So king here, 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 attacking the h-pawn. So if takes here, Hikaru's major problem is if he could get the pawn to b4 and king to b3, then he's got really good winning chances. But anytime he brings the king out, black's going to check him forever until he hides behind that b pawn again, and then black's going to go back to rook b8 to stop b4. That's called the frontal defense. Okay, Esipenko threatens king g3 by defending this pawn. So now b4, king g3, b5, h4. The black pawn's very fast with the rook there. So Hikaru has to defend the g pawn. Rook comes back, and yeah, where can his king go to push this? He can't. It's a draw. We'll say symbolically 0.1. Because black's the one who has to be careful, but I think he's figured it out. Doing anything here? I don't see anything for him to even try, really. So Chekovich and back. An important thing to note is that a rook trade doesn't look winning for Naka. For example, if he came here, 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 the black pawn's very fast. Right, with a draw. Okay, Prague and Wei Yi. A6, predicted it. Knight c6, knight c8, draw, agreed. A painful game for like a slightly frustrating game for Prague, because surely he had a winning position somewhere around here. Yeah, surely he's winning, right? And then he just can't quite. I mean, that there's this miracle draw here for Wei, just at the very beginning of it all. Very honestly, I never double checked this one. That doesn't look like a draw. Well, that's what I'm looking at right now, Sweet Blues. I assumed it was that knight c8, there would be rook c8, and then a perpetual. Now I'm not finding that perpetual. This is not a draw at this point, you know. Ay, ay, ay. What if he could have just taken? What if that was a bluff? They were in time pressure. What else could have been the reason for not playing knight c8? Yeah, but it's not a perpetual, Patrick. I know the line's not over. I just saw a few more moves ahead. Once b4 was played, the white king was going to be able to cross into a little hiding place on the a file. So, and you know, even here, this move is a clear extra pawn for white. The point being just that you can defend f4. And you're up a pawn in the queen ending. Do you win for sure? Not for sure, but... certainly there's a fairly good chance. So... queen d4 instead here. Yes, this was it, checking on the d file, right? Oh, sorry. Here we got to go there. But then here, queen g5 is out. Here is out, queen e3, and we get back to this. Queen d4 instead of queen e3. Queen f1, check. Ah, thanks, Treesmut. Oh, right, but there's an issue with queen d4, king h1. Yeah, sorry, thank you. Queen d4, king h1. Check, and then you don't have e5 like from e3. Ooh, this might have been a big moment where he was like, ah, shoot, this perpetual thing, and then he was like, well, the bishop's still trapped. I'll do something super clever. Then another annoying thing, and again, he could like win a pawn, but is it enough? He still wants to win a whole piece. He keeps the f pawn defended. Now knight c8, there's queen e4. Oh, and it keeps going. Oh, what a pain. What a pain. It really felt like he should win. Okay, here's rook's attack. He couldn't go rook c3 because of queen f4. So rook e4 made sense. Dang. Wow. Epic game. Epic game. Who will be the top US player, Fabi or Naka? I don't know. they're going to be pretty close, right? As they have been for years. Okay, Naka's endgame. We'll get back to that one here. Switches the king. He threatens rook check b4 once his king's here. So Esipenko gets out of the way of that. And if he walks back this way, black will put the king back on g4. So that's a draw as well. From all those exciting positions, I think there's only one player who broke through today, which was Anish, right? The other players weren't quite able to convert their advantages. And, you know, an advantage is no guarantee of a win in chess, right? It's just one factor. It's one step in the battle. Hey, Icy. Wei defended quite well, yes. And Anish is playing very nicely. Beautiful, beautiful game today from him. I think we can call this one pretty much a draw. So I'm going to look at the opening of Caruana versus Anish, which I didn't get to see. Okay, so take out the eval bar. And let me just have a look at the opening of this game. Okay, it was a double king pawn. Bishop pairs himself. And just calmly takes some more space. Fabi says, yes, space. Sounds good. Oh. And these are like huge positional decisions. He decides to keep the knight on g6 at bay. And Anish wants space. And now it's a battle for the A file, which we know that Anish won. It already does not look great to me for Fabi. Like, he's already, to my mind, lost the battle. But where he lost it, nobody knows. Anish is not sure yet what he wants to do. He's just moving back and forth for now. Finally brings the bishop around. The advantage becomes clearer. Perhaps an ill-fated move, but in a tough position. Fabi goes for something concrete. Genius. Genius. Wow, just a hell of a game, you know. I can't say what Fabi did wrong. So, yeah, that was fun to see. As far as prognosticating the whole thing, we've got a 1.5 point lead for Sindarov. We have 5 rounds to go. They play each other supposedly 4 rounds from now. Yeah, interesting. What did we get wrong here, Joyce? Something wrong with this? Okay, so Patrick is saying maybe bishop e3 itself is a big piece of what Fabi did wrong. And d5 made the bishop on a7 a good piece, so maybe d5 was a mistake as well. Yeah. Are these guys going to play forever? Maybe. Yeah, it says they're still playing. Okay, folks. I think I've got to run at this point. I have a very short day on Wednesday. And to me, this is pretty clearly a draw right here between Naka and Estepenko. Well defended by Andre. I don't know, the details at the start. Like, I don't understand the move F4. I don't know what the best approach for white is here. But the approach white used, Estepenko just goes for a g5 pawn trade. That makes sense to me, and that this position is drawn looks pretty clear. I guess to some extent that refutes f4, or defends sufficiently against f4. Maybe there's a sufficient defense against every other move that white could have tried. Actually, rook c3 looks maybe interesting. Black's going to play this g5 no matter what, huh? Yeah. Okay. Maybe it's just drawing. Black does this nice and quick before this becomes any kind of a threat. So, yeah. So that game's going to end in a draw. I feel very confident calling it and signing off. The position sort of hasn't changed in 20 moves on this board. So, yeah, have a good rest of your day wherever you are, whatever is left of the day. And Chess Dojo will be back covering round 10 tomorrow. And yeah, we'll look forward to